ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Lieutenant General Asad Durrani. A veteran of 2 Indo-Pakistani wars and former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, he's a staunch defender of the Pakistani military establishment. General Durrani, with the benefit of hindsight, if nothing else, do you now regret the role that Pakistan, and in particular Pakistani military intelligence, the ISI that you were once in charge of, played in giving the world the Taliban?
What we did was the requirement at that time. Still today, I won't say that one regretted it. One played the card as it was to be played.
Given what we've seen happened in Afghanistan since the fall of the Soviet Union, the Afghan Mujahideen, etc., you look back and say, if I could do it again, I'd do it the same way. You were in charge of a lot of that policy at the time.
One would have done it a little better job, certainly. No doubt about that.
When you say better job, you would have given us more Taliban or less?
No. The Taliban emerged because after the Soviet Union, the Mujahideen were not entirely up to the task. So that is how they evolved.
But since the fall of the Soviet Union, in fact, right up until very recently, depending on who you believe and which reports you read, you have been backing the Taliban in Afghanistan. The only reason they've managed to make a comeback is because of support from the Pakistan government, military, ISI. That's pretty outrageous, isn't it?
After 2001, after the invasion of Afghanistan, the Taliban made the first move to reconciliate with the Kabul regime, which was rejected. And if they had to rise again to resist foreign occupation, and at 1/3 of the Afghan population is sympathetic to the Taliban.
If you're saying that they've got potential support, undeniably they do. Yeah. They represent factions in Afghanistan, undeniably they do. That means, yes, you try and bring them into a political process. Yeah. It doesn't mean you actually secretly, behind the scenes, support their so-called insurgency and help them by giving them weapons and letting them blow stuff up.
How else would anyone speak to them unless they have some power potential? Unless they can show the ability, as I said, so 2002, if you reject them, you are out.
So it's old-fashioned.
You no longer count.
It's old-fashioned ends justify the means.
Is it old-fashioned?
Well, modern.
Oh, I thought it was very modern. Unless a party is in a position to play a role, no one is going to talk to them. This talking from a position of strength is a big myth.
Hold on. Well, you seem to want it both ways. On the one hand, you're saying we had to talk to them because they had so much support, but they can only have so much support when we gave them weapons to blow stuff up. It's a bit of a contradiction.
If a ragtag militia of 25,000 insurgents, with the help of a state which is considered to be either failing or faltering or fumbling, like Pakistan, if they can achieve this particular status, then the least that I expect from an audience like this, in a country where, you know, they talk about the spirit of Eton and Harrow, to give the Taliban and their supporters in Pakistan a big applause.
Applaud the Taliban? Well,
absolutely, because they have...
You talk about resisting foreign occupation. Let's just break that down. Yeah. According to the UN, of the 3,000–4,000 people, civilians, who were killed in Afghanistan last year, the Taliban killed 75% of them. Is that what you want us to applaud?
How many were killed by the occupation forces?
Well, less than... Well, 75% were killed by the Taliban.
Maybe a little less. But I'm not contesting the figures.
You're an educated man, you're a general, you're a senior person. Your response to me saying that they've killed 3 out of 4 civilians last year cannot be, how much did the other side kill? We are not in the playground, General. 75% of the civilian casualties were caused by the Afghan Taliban. You want us to applaud that?
This is the nature of this war. It's futile to say they should have killed a few less, but in this type of warfare, people would die.
You're talking in a very kind of sterile way, so let's just break this down. Are you saying that it is justified in this war for the Taliban, as they do, to blow up schools full of kids? Yes or no?
I'm not justifying anything.
Sounds like you are to me.
I'm not justifying anything, I'm just trying to explain.
You've said in the past that the US and Pakistan are, quote, at war against each other.
Yeah.
Is that still your view?
Yeah. This was a big illusion on part of, let's say, Pakistan. They deluded themselves in believing that they were allies. Actually, they were not. The allies have the same objective, which we did not have. The allies also agree on a certain approach on which we did not.
It's different to say we are at war. You use the phrase that America and Pakistan are at war.
Right.
The reason I bring this up is it's a funny sort of war in which one side gives the other side billions of dollars in aid, and the other side takes the money, pockets it, and then goes and helps the enemies of the people who gave them that cash. That's a weird sort of war.
I think we got much less money than we should have.
Okay.
Keeping people on the leash.
They certainly didn't give you money to go and help their enemies and give safe houses to Taliban leaders and coordinate their activities in Afghanistan with roadside bombs, etc., etc.
So we fooled them.
Is that what you think? You fooled them?
No harm in doing that.
What would you say to someone who says, basically, the behavior of Pakistan in recent years, and which you're clearly so proud of, is the behavior of a quite treacherous and duplicitous country?
If you cannot ride two horses, you have no business to join the circus.
Okay.
You know who gave that advice?
No.
Lord Robertson, who was an illustrious British diplomat, Secretary General of NATO, and he was talking to Cohen, the Defense Secretary of the United States. These states play double games, and if we did it successfully, I suppose this is again in the nature of this thing.
Okay. Do you regard yourself as a moral man?
If it is concerning an individual's act and an individual's interest, then I suppose morality counts. But in the statecraft, the morality takes a backseat.
You suggest that this is about statecraft, it's about playing games, it's about riding horses. If you said, you know what, we don't do morality, we get things done. The problem is, you don't get things done either. Even on a practical level, what you're doing hasn't worked. So take, for example, the Pakistani Taliban, the so-called TTP, who are an offshoot inspired by the Afghan Taliban. No. They are now blowing up kids' schools in Pakistan. They have been carrying out gross acts of terror for the past few years. Pakistani soldiers, people you served with, have died at their hands. That is a Frankenstein's monster that you lot created. That is a blowback from your pragmatic policies.
Collateral damage. Oh, my word. There is a price to be paid for this type of game. It's a high-stake
full
game.
Of kids is collateral damage.
Right. High-stake game. Some people, like you believe that we created a few groups, the other side would also do that. No, this is the only way this game is going to be played. It doesn't happen that one side sits back and says,
let's be clear.
The morality demands, the morality
forget
requires
morality. As I said, forget morality. On a practical level, how does it help you that the groups you once armed and supported are now attacking you? Is that what you planned? Is that what you're saying? You knew this was going to happen and you approve of it?
The gain is that Afghanistan is more or less free of the foreign occupation. The gain is that Afghanistan can be reunited, reunified, and then whatever would be left with the TTP, one will have to deal with them. Nothing comes free of cost. This is not a game for the weak-hearted people.
Would you describe the parents who lost kids in Peshawar in that school attack as weak-hearted people?
No, they are not weak-hearted. I feel very strongly. I mean, I sympathize with them, except that I am just trying to explain. It doesn't sound
like you sympathize with them. You said collateral damage was the school attack,
which
is a pretty outrageous thing to say.
I'm simply describing how these things happen. I do not have to justify anything. I do not even try and describe what is good and what is bad. I'm just trying to, for the benefit of everyone here, say, how these things get
clearly
done.
You do believe in good and bad because you think freeing Afghanistan of foreign occupation is worth all these deaths. Do you believe, General Durrani, and do you expect people in this room to believe, that the ISI had no knowledge of where Osama bin Laden was before his death? That bin Laden, who was discovered in 2011 in Pakistan, in Abbottabad, in a very large building, in a military town, near a military base, and the ISI had no clue that he was there? Really?
Till today, I cannot say exactly what happened, but my assessment, I mean, it's about giving your assessment. My assessment was, it is quite possible that they did not know, but it was more probable that they did. And the idea was that at the right time, his location would be revealed. And the right time would have been when you can get the necessary quid pro quo. If you have someone like Osama bin Laden, you are not going to simply hand him over to the United States. The quid pro quo, to my mind, until today, I'm not going to say that it was, that I have known about it, that I'm absolutely sure about it, and that was, you get your Osama bin Laden, provided, now let's agree on how to bring the Afghan problem to an end.
When you say we may have known where he was and we may have produced him, does that mean you know where he is, or actually you're sheltering him? It's an ISI safe house.
If ISI was doing that, then I would say that they were doing a good job. And if they revealed his location, they again probably did what was required to be done.
Are you going to ask us now to give a round of applause to Osama bin Laden as well?
Except that I do not know what happened. I do not know what happened.
Leon Panetta, who was CIA director, he said that it was either the Pakistanis were either involved or they were incompetent.
I think the admission of incompetence was probably done on political reasons. We did not want, again, as far as the people of Pakistan were concerned, it was going to be very uncomfortable for them that their government, you know, is in cahoot now with the United States and gets hold of Osama bin Laden, who incidentally was quite an admired figure in Pakistan.
Were you an admirer of Osama bin Laden's?
I am not going to talk about my personal thing at all.
Really?
No.
Did you know why you were coming to be on this program?
No, I mean, of course, you know. There are a few things that I should not, otherwise
I'm not talking about, you know, did you manage his operations in the 80s? Although, did you manage his operation in the 80s?
80s?
Yeah. You were in the military intelligence, he was fighting the Soviets.
No,
did you guys get together for a coffee and plan attacks? You, the Americans, the Saudis, the old gang back together again.
Yeah, I think we did gang up together for on a number of occasions, except that we were not telling each other what was happening. Osama bin Laden at that time was an unknown figure. I had never heard about him during the period that I was heading it.
And were you, or dare I say, are you an admirer of Osama bin Laden?
As I said, I am not going to, because then one loses the whatever objectivity I can bring to play, I will even lose that. Because, and that's why I keep talking about...
Your refusal to answer might make a few people in this room come to their own conclusions as to what your view is.
They will in any case come to their own conclusion.
Well,
I can see that.
When you say he was an admired figure in Pakistan, do you mean because of the Soviet war, or do you mean because of 9/11?
The first reaction when 9/11 happened, plenty of people said it was time that someone also, you know, gave a befitting response to now the sole surviving superpower, getting too big for its boots, goes around, gone guns blazing wherever it wants to. If that was the reaction of so many people, I can understand that some people would be sympathetic to an organization that had the courage and the gumption to stand up to that power.
Let's go to the audience for a question. Gentleman here in the second row, yes?
You were ISI head in 90 to 92. And you were leading the war in Afghanistan, and you were implementing the strategy, Kabul must be burned. You burned it. My mother lost a 16-year-old son. Since 1992 till today, her tears has dried up. And millions, 2.5 million were killed. And still Afghanistan is suffering. When it comes to personal issues, are you ready to condemn your actions and apologize? Make an apology to my mother and to people like me and millions of Afghans who you have killed.
Okay, you made your point very strongly, sir.
Yeah.
Let the General respond now.
Make an apology, stand trial, or to be dragged to a court. Thank you.
Look, I'm very sorry for any personal losses that people have suffered. That policy got the Soviet occupation vacated. As far as the destruction of Kabul is concerned, that took place after the Soviet withdrawal because of a particular civil war that took place, the power struggle that took place between the PDPA and subsequently the Mujahideen.
Gentleman here in the yellow jacket. Do you want to wait for the microphone to come to you?
Do you not think, General Assad, that Britain has played a larger role in making the Taliban more violent in places like Helmand than Pakistan ever has?
The only good thing that I can think that the British did, they did not come down too heavily on narcotics. Because, and I'm very serious about this, once everyone else is gone, the foreign aid has also been taken away. What are the Afghans going to do to sustain this particular structure that has been created? They will probably be banking more on the narcotics.
And you'd be in favor of that?
I'm not trying to say that it's a good thing or bad thing, but 2 to 3 million Afghans nowadays live on this industry.
And it's also a great sustainer of the Taliban, of course, who, remember, you wanted us to applaud. Phone calls were intercepted by US Afghan intelligence with the ISI planning an attack on the Indian embassy in Kabul.
Oh, no, that's not true.
That's not true.
If the phone calls were intercepted, then I suppose the people in the ISI were not doing a very good job.
Is there a line that the ISI shouldn't cross, for you, in your view? Or is the ISI able to do whatever it wants?
No, the ISI would do anything possible, anything that it can do to carry out that assessment.
So there's no limits, there's no laws, there's no restraints?
None, except for the mission that it has.
And if that applies to every intelligence agency in the world,
it is.
it's a bit of a crazy planet you all want us to live on, where everyone just gets to kill each other.
That's what they would do, especially those intelligence agencies which are faced with a situation like us.
Well, the CIA... Worse, abhorrent
Guantanamo
torture.
Bay.
The CIA carried out abhorrent torture, but at least American politicians published a report on it. Have we had an equivalent report on the ISI? Has the Pakistani parliament ever produced a report on the ISI's wrongdoings in the way that the US Senate did the other day?
Because there were no wrongdoing, so that's why they were.
Okay.
You're in Britain, we're all British in here. Our government pays millions and millions of pounds to Pakistan, and ISI and the army, saying that they are our partners in killing the terrorists. You're sat here promoting and supporting all elements that kill British soldiers, which are British citizens. Are you sat in Oxford promoting, glorifying terrorism? And are you the terrorist that we should be looking for?
The British soldiers went to Afghanistan as part of an invading force. They fought a war there, and some people would die.
And many of the
soldiers, when the soldiers go and take part in the war, there is no such insurance guarantee that they are going to come back.
General Durrani, in the interests of balance, the British government would point out that whatever happened in 2001 happened under a UN resolution. The soldiers that went into Helmand went in with the consent of an elected Afghan government.
Yeah, those people who are resisting them, they're not going to be looking at the United Nations security resolutions, which United Nations, in any case, the United Nations Security Council has become a handmaiden of certain powers.
Okay.
When it comes to helping, and that is the DNA of Pakistan. Just a minute, probably the most important point this evening. Pakistan is not like any other normal country.
No, that's clear.
No, it is not. It's a very unusual place. Historically, the Muslims of the subcontinent have associated themselves with the greater Ummah. Khilafat movement, they sent people there. After the birth of Pakistan, not only providing help to the Afghans to resist foreign aggression, sending pilots to Syria to fight the Israelis, Chechens and Bosnians being supported by the Pakistanis, the militaries in the Gulf being trained by the Pakistanis.
The cost at home.
Well, there is always going to be a cost for these sublime purposes. These are,
You genuinely believe these are sublime purposes?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, given you
Today, if Pakistan is in the limelight, for some people, perhaps not for the best of reasons.
I think it's undoubtedly not for the best of reasons.